over hundreds of people over the last year. And so to me, that definitely substantiates the fact that at least 80% of our economy is driven by small business. So I'm looking at bringing initiatives and inviting more businesses to our community. Now, what's most important is that right now I'm actually in the process of giving life-changing workshops. And some of those workshops are centered around entrepreneurship, centered around basic things that we need to give our residents and give our businesses. Understanding how to prepare budgets, understanding how to do financial statements so that as an entrepreneur they can be successful and that they understand their business. So the key is, yes, entrepreneurship is important. Small businesses support 80% of the economics. We need small businesses across the board. And not only do we need small businesses, but we do need big box as well. So I'm looking forward to bringing those to the 7th Ward. I'm looking forward to working with the businesses that exist today because we want to support them as well so that they are sustainable. And we're just looking to bring more economic development and definitely create more jobs in the 7th Ward. Thank you.
I want to be able to shop in my community, and I think that's something that is a unanimous decision that we've all made. But we can't talk about business growth unless we have engagement. So I've talked with the existing businesses that we've had and asked them, are they taking advantage of the programs that currently exist? And we must be familiar with those programs. And many of them are not familiar with the fact that we have 5 TIFs in the 7th Ward. Now, we know that TIF has almost become a bad word. But if they are used for their intended purposes, they can benefit our community. One of the derivatives of a TIF are small business improvement funds. Only 2 of our current businesses are engaged in that program. We have to make sure that our businesses know about these programs and are taking advantage of them. We also have to recognize that we need our own chamber of commerce that is going to be dedicated to making sure that we can utilize and mentor businesses. We don't want businesses to come and leave. We want sustainable economic development. So we must have the tools that they need in order to sustain themselves and the caliber of businesses that we will support. This summer I worked with the Planning Coalition when we saw the departure of Dominic's. We launched a survey. We've got to talk amongst ourselves to find out what types of businesses do we need. Where will we patronize? Where will we spend our dollars? There is a plan in this 2015 budget about regional planners. We need to utilize that time to talk about what we want and to make sure that those are the kinds of businesses that are here and that we will patronize. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what was already said, but I'll say this. We got to start talking about what we know people have figured out about us in our communities. Part of what they figured out is that you and I would drive 12 and a half miles, if not more, outside of our community patronizing goods and services. How do we get those businesses to reinvest in the communities where dollars are derived from? So part of this process and plan is making sure that we hold corporations and businesses accountable that you and I patronize to come and invest in our community. I believe that we got to do a needs analysis as well as an asset analysis. But part of what happens oftentimes, you and I get left out of that conversation. So I want to do an analysis that incorporates the voice of the people to make sure you and I together identify what we feel like this community needs. What are the goods and services we need and would be willing to patronize? From there, we then go into developing a strategic economic development plan for this ward and making sure that we work with council members, corporations, and also making sure that we work with committees in city council to push our vision forward to make sure that we are not only leveraging the resources that we have right here in our community, but also that we are leveraging that East Lake Development Project. So making sure that you and I are working in partnership to bring those resources. Collaborating with our small business owners. Because our small business owners are the main street of this community. So if we're not talking to them, then I don't see the point of us bringing in the big boxes. We have to make sure that we protect and sustain our small business owners.
All right. Moderator, feel free if I run out of time, just clap. Okay. Hey guys, look, there was a lot of things things that were just said, very eloquently stated, but we got to take a step back and look at the basics. Our neighborhoods. Before we can start pushing the economic development, in which we do mean, we need to make sure our houses are in order. Okay? We've lost so much of home ownership throughout the entire war that we need to put things in place to bring back home ownership. We have investors throughout our community that are bringing. This investor in South Deering that's over 200 properties that are renting. Okay, before we can start asking big box and all these goods to come to our neighborhood, we need to put our house in order. One of the things I would like to do from a legislative standpoint is to put a beautification ordinance in place. And that would require all all investors to be responsible for the homes. Before we can start bringing anybody to invest in our neighborhoods, we need to invest in our neighborhoods. You know, if I'm a big box store, and I want to bring, I'm looking to bring something to 95th, I'm going to do an analysis. I'm going to count the number of home ownership, number of owned homes. I'm going to look at the crime, because that's going to be a direct hit on my insurance. I'm going to look at a lot of things that is going to give me the idea, an indication that I'm going to be able to make money with my business. 95th Street, this past summer, had a new business owner called the Free Zone. He didn't survive. Why? Because the type of business that he put in place is not patronized by the people in our neighborhoods. See, when companies want to come in our community, they...
The question was, what are we going to do? First thing that I'm going to do is, I'm not asking the city council for anything, I'm taking it. Everything that we're supposed to have, we're going to take. We have legislated ourselves to a position where we've gone back to the 50s level funding. We're asking them to give us stuff that we're supposed to have anyway. Take it. You don't have to ask them, it's yours. When it comes to economic development, let's do this. Right in this ward, we have the highest number of abandoned and foreclosed properties. Why do we use that as an economic engine? We talk about these closed schools. Why don't we take one of those schools and turn them to a trade school? Everybody's not going to college. How about give them a trade? It's in our hands, it's here, it's immediate, and we can do something now. We don't have to wait for them to legislate us back in the jail. We can do something about our economics right now.
All right. Before we go any further, we all have these wonderful devices. Some of us have them out. Would you please take this time to look at your cell phones and be sure they're either off or on silent or vibration? Can we just do that in this age of communication? Okay, we're going to piggyback a little bit on Greg Mitchell's answer, because someone asked the question, and this is a quick one, so it should go around the table. They want to know, what is your address, how long you've lived there, and are you the property owner?
That's how they fight the challenge.
Right.
8932 Paxton, 30 plus years, and I am a homeowner. Check my tax return.
9521 South Oglesby, purchased October 31st, 1996, and I've been there since then.
8354 South Crandon Avenue, 17 years.
8043 South Shore Drive, at that residence for 2 years, renting with the option to buy.
One second, we are not going to have any heckling. We are here to hear what the candidates have to say. We're going to keep this respectful, and we're not having any heckling, or you will be removed.
7942 South Luella, 12 years homeowner. 2651 East 74th Street, that's the corner of 74th and Coles. I've been there for 10 years and I'm a homeowner.
8135 South Escanaba, and I've been there for 20 years. 8005 South Marquette. No, you may not come over and have dinner with me. And I will be purchasing a bigger home once I'm elected.
All right, I hope that satisfies that question. The next question is, what will you do to get there are the new street lights. Everybody, well, most of us love the new street lights because I'm familiar, they have the double decker, it has the taller light, and it has the second light at the bottom. So we see it coming sporadically from time to time, so this person would like to know, what will you do to get the new street lights which can help deter crime throughout the entire 7th Ward, but especially Jeffrey Manor? We're going to start with Mr. Moore.
Let me say this. Having spoken with and heard the Alderman speak before me, I think she referred to it as a menu item. Understanding that and understanding what it costs, and we have to look at that cost as to where we're going to get the money. My suggestion, again, thinking outside the box. If the city doesn't have the money, why don't we go after the money ourselves in the form of, say, a grant? Let's do outside the box. If the city's going to say they don't have money, it's going to run out of it. So that would be my thought process. But do we need them? Certainly. Mine goes out every day, but that's another issue.
The question, how do we go about getting these lights for? All right, so all y'all make $1.3 million in menu money, correct? 1.3 million? $1.3 million in menu money. So one of the things I want to institute when I'm alderman is a participatory budgeting process. And what that is I'm going to have representation from each and every ward. That will be South Deering, Calumet Heights, South Chicago, and South Shore. When we get together, we list out our wish list, things that we need for the ward. So when they come up that we want lights for this particular block, I'll have that in my office, and then we can prioritize accordingly, and we'll use the $1.3 million to make that happen. So I just
here's the reality of generally there aren't enough funds to do every single block at the same time. So the reality is that we are going to have to institute participatory budgeting so that we can take an assessment of the entire ward and prioritize how we spend our dollars. But I also would say that part of the problem is that we need to advocate that each ward receives more money from the city. And if we don't have the money in our city, then we need to be working with our state legislators and with our federal government to bring in initiatives, to bring in more dollars, to be able to support beautification projects and to be able to support programs that will deter crime in our communities.
It's very important that we understand how city government works, and the $1.3 million menu budget is certainly not enough money to cover the full landscape of over 300 blocks that make up the 7th Ward. So one of the things that is very critical, and this is an ask that I would make of you as your alderman, is when you see light outages, you have to report them. Report those outages to my office, because when we pull up the cost of service and we are able to program dollars, it's based upon where we have chronic infrastructure failure. Street lights are done in 2-block increments, and they on average run about $150,000 for those 2 blocks. So we can do the math. Clearly we'll not be able to spread those resources out evenly, but we'll base them upon the high traffic areas and where we're seeing chronic outages, because it is a safety issue. So that's where, again, we have to make sure we report those. I would caution participatory budgeting because studies have proven that when you have a diverse community such as ours, where you have mixed residents,